Hello friends, welcome to my channel Algo Chat. In today's video, we are going to see that how should we explain our project in interviews, or you can say how we should prepare the structure of the explanation about your project. There are some headlines which we are going to see in today's video. So whenever an interviewer asks you about like what is your project, so there are some points which you should include in your explanation. So those points we are going to discuss in today's video. Okay. So if you are going for any job interviews or any interviews, they ask about your projects, that what you have done. So it is better to explain them in a certain structured manner so that all the questions, like you already answered their questions, what they are going to ask you post your explanation. Okay. So there are some headings, or you can say the format which I am going to discuss today. So it is like not every headings will suit your projects, but it is a generalized project explanation. If the heading suits your projects, then you can include. So let's start with our headings today's video. Okay, so first of all, what you should include in your project: a brief introduction. So brief introduction includes your project name, your project slogan, or introductory statements like what your project is aiming for. Secondly, what is your project about? So this is 4 to 5 lines of brief introduction is enough for the introduction phase. Okay. So first of all, you have to start with your introduction. An introduction contains name, slogan, introductory statements on what is your project about. Okay. Secondly, moving on, you have to mention what's the motivation for the project idea. So motivation like environmental cause, that whether your project is dealing with some environmental cause or it will help the society. Nextly, real world problem motivation, like you can mention the real world problem, environmental cause, or convenience. Inconvenience, we can say if there are some existing methods and you are improving that existing methods, so you are making convenient for the users. So this also comes under motivation, like complexity of the task. Okay, so we can say we can experience some complexities in performing some particular tasks. So you are making it convenient. So that is also motivation for a project. Or as I mentioned, improvement in existing methodologies. Okay, if you don't like some procedure of doing something, so you are improving it, or you are finding a way so that it can get better, or the time required reduces. Okay, the required time to complete the task, certain task, get reduces. Basically, in generalized manner, what we can include in this motivation for the project is like why you have opted this project idea. You have to explain that कि मैंने ये project चुना है, so what is the reason behind selecting this problem state. You have to explain that. Okay. Next, moving on, you have to explain about your project domain, like what your like where your project is applicable, or in project domain. For example, if you are making some agriculture related project, like as a machine learning engineer, I have developed like one app which can predict the diseases, or which can classify the diseases. Okay, so this kind of project resides in agriculture domain. Okay. Nextly, there are multiple domains: health informatics, cybersecurity, e-commerce, or SAP. Like if you are providing any service as a platform, then you have to mention that project domain, that where your project resides. Okay. So this is the third point you have to keep in mind while explaining your projects. Okay. And next, fourth, like what does your project do? आपका project क्या करता है? Okay. So in this uh, in this headline, you have to mention like what is your project aiming for, what's the aim of your project, what you are doing, what is the novelty of the project. Okay. And what are you doing in this project, मतलब आपका project क्या कर रहा है. ठीक है. और how your project will work, कि आपका project कैसे काम करेगा. ठीक है. ये सारे जो questions है, इसका आंसर आपके इस हेडलाइन के अंदर मिल जाना चाहिए. ओके. सो the headlines I am introducing to you one by one. So it is better to keep in this sequence only, because like it is the format to explain your projects in the interviews. With me, I have given many interviews. So after explaining my projects in this manner, interviewer give us feedback that okay, great. Every time he like he was not expecting this kind of explanation from me, so he was quite impressed. Like I know how to explain something. Okay. So what does the project do contains? What is your project aiming to solve? What is the novelty of the project? What are you doing in this project? And how your project will work. Okay, so this kind of question should get answered in this headline. Next is who is your target audience? Okay, so if we talk about audience, let's say I'm making one e-commerce app. So I'm targeting the general people. Let's say I'm making one farming related app. So my target audience is farmers. Okay. Let's say I'm making replica of Ola, Uber, or some kind of that. So my target audience are drivers or planners. Like if I'm planning something, like if my app is for scheduling tasks, or you can say um, like managing something. Okay, so it we are targeting the audience who generally plans, like event management. Okay, for example, if you are going to book, if you are going to make one application for the a movie theater. Okay, if I have my private movie theater, so I am like making one application. So my target audience is the person who are coming to watch the movies. So you have to like be aware about your target audience and what is the size of that target audience. Okay, so this target audience you have to mention in your project, okay, who on large scale are going to use your project. So don't forget to mention the target audience, okay? And next, coming ahead, you have to explain about the requirements. So what comes under requirements? So what are the initial requirements you require? For example, like if you are making one machine learning project, so first of all you need one data set. So from where you are getting that data set, you have to mention that, like you required this and from where you get the data set, you have to mention that. For example, let's say if you are making one health related app and you have to classify diseases, let's say you have to classify the stages of cancer. So you require the data set of cancer. So from where you will get that data set of cancer. Okay, so that's your basic requirement, that you need the data set for machine learning model. Okay, nextly, for second example, if you are making one e-commerce website, so you required some brands who sell their products on your e-commerce website. So these are the initial requirements. You have to explain about what are your initial requirements. Okay, so these are the some examples, like cloud databases, geospatial images, Google Maps. Google Maps, like if you are making apps like Rapido or Google Uber. Okay, Uber or Ola. So you require Google Maps, some authentication or that. So what are your requirements basically? What are the services and platforms, or you can say artifacts, you are needed to do your projects? For example, computer, supercomputer with a specific configuration. Let's say you are making one web development or web app. So web app requires one computer that should be on 24 into 7. Okay, so that kind of computer if you want. So these all are the requirements what you required for your projects. So based on that, you have to explain that what are your requirements based on your projects. You have to figure out that what are the requirements. You have to mention that in your explanation. Okay, moving ahead, what are the technologies used? Next heading can be what are the technologies used. So in this heading, you can explain about the programming languages, coding platforms, AWS, Azure. These are the cloud databases, or technologies like Flutter, Mean, Mun, Angular. Flutter for Android, Angular for Android, and Mean and Mun for web development. Apart from this, if you are using .NET, C Hash, like C Sharp. So based on your projects, what are the technology you are employing? So you have to mention that technology, all the technology you have used in your project. For example, let's say I'm making one machine learning model. So I required some pre-processing techniques like k-fold cross validation and some data augmentation I have to do. Okay, so data augmentation, like multiple images, same multiple images. I have to delete the same images from the data set, or I have to enhance the image. Okay, so that these all are the pre-processing techniques I have to use in while creating one machine learning model or while creating one data set suitable for ML models. Nextly, if you are making web development, so what are the technologies used in web projects and prototyping tools, prototypes? Okay, so libraries, frameworks, visualization tools. These all comes under technology you have used. Okay, so main headings are technologies. What are the technology you have used? You have to mention that. Okay, next. Then followed by that, this is the important heading, which if you not explain this, then might your interviewer ask you this question, like what are the modules of your project? Okay, so this is the important question, or this is the important headline. you have to mention in your project, because if you not mention then might next question या फिर आपको interviewer next question यही पूछ सकता है that what are the modules in your projects. Okay, so let's say let's see this with one example, with two examples. Okay, one for machine learning and one for web development or e-commerce websites. Let's say I'm creating one machine learning project. So these are all the these all are the modules. Okay, data acquisition, pre-processing, model training and evaluation, classification, UI development, result storage, registration modules. Okay, sorry, this comes under web development. So these are the modules which you can explain or not explain, like you can mention that these are the modules in my machine learning projects. So based on your machine learning projects, this may vary, these may vary, but data acquisition, pre-processing, generally we explain this data acquisition, pre-processing and model training and evaluation, classification. Let's say if you are using CNN or random forest, so how are you classifying it, what are the layers in CNN. Okay, so these all are the modules uh, which you are making, which you are utilizing for your machine learning projects. Secondly, web development, if you are making a website, so registration modules, cards, let's say e-commerce website. Okay, we are taking the example of e-commerce websites. So for making e-commerce websites, these all are the modules: registration modules, card, and about us modules. Okay, login pages, home page, navigation bar and side panel, contact page, and your orders. Okay, admin module and design module. So these all are the modules. So basically, in this section of modules of the project, okay, so modules of the project includes description of functionalities, that what are the functionalities you are going to provide. So these all comes under the modules description. Okay, modules of the projects, or you can say what are the stages involved in your projects. So these all comes under modules. Let's say first you have prepared data set, then you are augmented the data set. Okay, then you selected the machine learning model, then you uh, uh, classified the machine learning model, then result you want to store. Okay, so let's say you are doing some you are doing your project in stages, or you can say talking about in terms of web development, you have multiple pages. We have login page, we have one landing page, we have that card page. Okay, then we have payment page. Okay, so these all are the pages, and you have to mention that these all are the modules. If interviewer asks you specifically about what you have done in your payment page, yeah, or what are the gateways you have used for your payment page, then further you have to explain about that. But just mention the names of the modules you have used in your project. Then don't go in depth. Okay, if interviewer is interested, then he will ask you about that payment page, or let's say if he's interested in any modules, then he will ask you. Okay, so this is very important section about your project. You should know that what are the modules used in your projects. Okay, then uh, coming to architecture, like there are two types of architecture: high level architecture and level architecture. So what based on the time, or what if, like if interview demands you of low level architecture, low level means you have to go in depth. Okay, that if you are making one login page, then what are the technologies you are using in login page, what are the methodologies, or uh, what are the stages, what are the technology you are using in that login page. Okay, so in high level architecture, you just have to give the gist of your project architecture. Okay, so in high level architecture, just give the overview of your project. So let's say if interviewer is asking you the architecture specifically, then I suggest you to explain your architecture in low level architecture, or else in the explanation of your projects. Okay, let's say if you are continuously explaining one by one, then I suggest you to use a high level architecture of the project. High level is like just give the of gist about the architecture of your project. Okay, and if he demands you specific about architecture, then provide the low level architecture, like go in depth. Okay, so this is all about architecture. Then secondly, what are the deployments? If your project is having some kind of deployment, then how are you making your project accessible to all? Like ये एक specific question होता है. You have to answer this question, these three questions. Okay, in the deployment heading, that how are you making it accessible to all? If you are using web, whether you are using Android, whether you are using some web app. Okay, so or else you are using some, if your project is about hardware, then you have to mention about the deployment of the project. Okay, so deployment is like it uh, it give us idea that your project is completed. Okay, If you are deploying something, then your brain level work is done. Now you are using some user interface to make it available for accessible for the users. Okay. So next, this deployment, how you are making your project accessible to all. Nextly, what deployment strategy you are using and why. Let's say if I am making Android app, so I have many options, like I can use Angular, I can use Flutter. Okay, so you have to give the reasoning behind the usage of your technology. If you are using Flutter, then what is the reason behind using Flutter? Or if you are using Angular, what is the reason behind using Angular? Okay, so what deployment strategy you are using, you have to mention that in your deployment heading. Okay, uh, and nextly, if you are making website, then what and why you are use that technology also, you have to mention that in your deployment. Okay, so what are the platforms, what are the technology you have used for your deployment, you have to mention that. Or you can mention the prototyping. Okay, like also one more thing in deployment, that if you have used Adobe XD for prototyping, so you can mention that I have also developed, like I have made prototype of this. If your development is not completed, if your deployment is not completed, okay, you can use that prototyping tools. Next, moving ahead, while explaining your project to your interviews, this heading, challenges you have faced, is important to, like, from this heading, he will understand that, like, you are not only explaining about your project, but you are also explaining the journey from start to end, like what are the challenges you are facing. Okay, so under the challenges you are facing, there are 4 to 5 kind of challenges. If you are facing some technical issues, some technical challenges, so technical challenges like integration of UI to model. Let's say I have made one machine learning model, but integration of machine learning model with Flutter was difficult. Okay, so this kind of technical challenges and how you have solved it. If you are mentioning the challenge, you have to mention that how you overcome that challenge. Okay, so please mention the complete process, like you face this challenge and you solve this challenge by implementing the solution. Nextly, compatibility issues of technologies, like if you are using some database and if you are using the front end tools, so the compatibility of backend and front end, this comes under technical challenges. Challenges, I suggest you to please mention one technical challenge and one challenge, like non-tech challenge, like team management or time constraint. Okay, so this, mentioning this kind of challenges will not make your explanation bookish. If you are using technical words, or if you are, like, all your explanation is having some technical stuffs, then interviewer might not get connected. You have to explain the project in a way that it should be like a story. You are telling a story, like from start to end. You have to get connected with the interviewer. Okay, so for that it is important to mention some non-tech challenges also. So team management, if you face any challenges in team management, then it is good to mention the challenges you face. Like if you face some challenges in team management, like if someone is not doing task on time, or else if someone is denying about is denying to perform a particular task. So how you convince that person to do that task? This comes under team management. If some issues are there, like he don't know the tech stack, okay, but still you have to, like, make that task done by that person only. So how you convince that person? So explaining this in your project explanation is like you are proving that you have done one project by managing the team or by convincing one person. So the communication, like interviewer is finding the person, interviewer is fetching the person who is, who going to work in the team of 7 to 8 people. Okay, so in that 7 to 8 people, not every time all 7 8 peoples come to that come to a single conclusion. So whether you have that convincing power, so this you can showcase by mentioning the challenges you have faced. Okay, nextly, you can mention the challenges, like in requirements. Okay, available requirements available. So आपको कुछ चीज़ों की ज़रूरत थी और आपने वो चीज़ें कैसे अवेलेबल की, या फिर उन चीज़ों को अवेलेबल करवाने में आपको कोई प्रॉब्लम आई. लेट्स से आई हैव मेंशन वन एग्जांपल ऑफ कैंसर डिटेक्शन. ओके, सो to make that data set available, what challenges you faced, what are the challenges uh, you face to make that data set. Okay, like if you gone, if you visited some hospitals to get the images of the data set. Okay, और hospital वाले आपको ऐसे ही तो नहीं देंगे. Okay, so these are the challenges you have faced to make your requirements available. Okay. Next thing you can mention about time constraint, that your deadline. You can mention about the deadlines, that deadlines, review 1, review 2. Your reviews was too, the duration of reviews was too short. That, like, how you manage the time. Okay, so that you can mention that in challenges faced. These all are the challenges. Next, moving ahead, you have to mention the outcomes. And remember, your outcome should be numerical evidence of your projects. See, interviewers get attracted to numbers. Like, if you're mentioning your outcomes in numbers, then it is it will provide more impact on the interviewer as compared to like statements, or if you are mentioning your outcomes in statements or sentences. If you use numbers in that place to, like, to explain your outcomes, like what are the outcomes, it will be more beneficial and more impactful. Numbers, like, for example, you have made one website. So what are the views, like what is the traffic, or if you are making one Android application, like how many downloads are there. So you have the number. Okay, you have the number, you have to mention that number in the outcomes. Outcomes also, in your outcomes you have to, like, give the evidence of impact made by your project. So what are the impacts your project is having, you have to mention that. Okay, if your project is reducing the time, if your project is reducing the complexity. Okay, so you have to mention the outcomes, and I suggest that mention your outcomes in numbers. Okay, let's say your application have 1,000 downloads, so mention that. Okay, it will create good impression on interviews. Okay, then what are the learnings, like what new you have learned. Learning in like learnings like management, technicality, and socializing. Socializing means, uh, taking one example of that cancer detection. So you require the images. So you've gone to hospitals, you have contacted some doctors, okay, about, and you explain about your projects, what you are going to do, what you are trying, what your project is aiming for. Okay, so that's come under socializing. Like, you are going to some person and you are asking it, and or you are explaining him and you want him to contribute to your project. So these all are the learnings, like management, technicality, and socializing. You can mention this in your project. Nextly, what are the future enhancements? See, if you are making something, so how to improve or how to enhance it in future. See, if you are making something, you should not make some stagnant thing. You should know that you can do this in future. Let's say I am making one classification app, okay, and now I am, like, uploading the images from the gallery. So in future, what I can do, I can use my device camera to capture the real-time image. So that comes under future enhancement. If you not mention this, may your interviewer ask you about future enhancement, like what you are planning to do next. Okay, so this is the heading you should mention in your project. At last, you have to mention your roles and responsibilities, like roles like management or your designation. Let's say you are doing machine learning, so you are like ML developer or machine learning engineer in your project. Next, technical roles, task assigned. What are your responsibility? What you have contributed? Okay, if it is a team project, and if it is solo, then all the things is done by you. You have to mention that whether it is solo project, whether it is team project. Okay, technical roles and tasks assigned. You have to mention all this. So this is the structure in which you have to explain your project, so that the interviewer get the whole idea about what you have done, what you are, what you can do it in future, and what are the process you have used. Okay, so this is the detailed explanation you should prepare for your interview. So ऐसा नहीं है कि explanation है, but it is like, what are the questions, these all are the questions which interviewer can ask you. इनमें से क्वेश्चन भी पूछे जा सकते हैं, जैसे कि आर्किटेक्चर, वो आपका आर्किटेक्चर पूछेंगे, challenges faced. Okay, they might ask you about future enhancement. Okay, they might ask you about roles and responsibilities. See, if you are mentioning some 3 to 4 lines, 3 to 4 lines, okay, in that particular headline, it is like 4 to 5 minute explanation. You will end up, okay, you will end up to 4 to 5 minute explanation if you will prepare some 4 to 5 lines in each headline. Okay, so these all are the points you have to keep in mind while explaining your project. See, explaining your project is like explaining what you have done till now. अगर आप ये एक स्ट्रक्चर में किसी भी इंटरव्यू प्रोजेक्ट एक्सप्लेन करते हो, सो आपके एक्सप्लेनेशन में बहुत सारी चीज़ें कवर हो जाएगी ऑटोमेटिकली। तो इंटरव्यूअर के पास आई डोंट थिंक कि फॉलो अप क्वेश्चन कुछ बचेगा। अगर आपने ये स्ट्रक्चर में प्रिपेयर किया और लेट्स से आपने एक्सप्लेनेशन नहीं दिया, आर्किटेक्चर का नहीं दिया, चैलेंजेस फेस्ड का नहीं दिया, बट स्टिल यू हैव प्रिपेयर्ड दोज। ओके, सो जो नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन होगा उसका, वो इन्हीं में से हो सकता है, ठीक है, मोस्ट प्रोबेबली इन्हीं में से क्वेश्चन होगा, ठीक है। आई सजेस्ट दैट प्रिपेयर योर प्रोजेक्ट एक्सप्लेनेशन फॉर इंटरव्यूज uh, that should contains these headings, like I will summarize it. See, your project explanation should have introduction, motivation for project, project domain, what does project do, audience, requirements, technology used, modules of your project, then architecture of the project, deployment, challenges faced, outcomes, learnings, future enhancement, roles and responsibilities. So in simple words, your project explanation should contains these all these points. Okay, so be like, explain everything to your interviewer. Okay, just don't give 1 to 2 minutes explanation. If he stops you, then okay, but I suggest you to please prepare the project. See, इंटरव्यू के पहले हमें प्रोजेक्ट भी प्रिपेयर करना होता है कि कौन से क्वेश्चंस आ सकते हैं, या फिर कौन से क्वेश्चंस हमें इंटरव्यू पूछ सकते हैं। सो अगर आप इस तरीके से आपका एक्सप्लेनेशन प्रिपेयर करके रखोगे बिफोर हैंड, सो वो बहुत ईजी हो जाएगा, ठीक है। तो ये है हमारा प्रोजेक्ट एक्सप्लेनेशन पे वीडियो। Okay, so remember, it will help you if you make the project in this structure. So this is all about today's video. Now I will meet you in next video. If you like the content, if you like the structure, if you like the format of the project, then please like the video and please subscribe my channel. Uh, your subscription will work as motivation for me. And remember one more thing: if you have any doubts in this structure, so please do comment. I will definitely resolve it. If you have any single doubt, or apart from this project explanation, if you have any further any queries, you have to ask. Okay, so you can comment down. If you have any kind of doubt or any single query you want to resolve, then please comment. So bye bye. See you. Meet you in next video.